Welcome to the third episode of Liberation Through Love, because where love leads, healing can emerge. Creating this podcast is an act of love from Emerge Center Against Domestic Abuse. We believe that where we are safe to heal, we are free to be. Every day throughout this organization, there are so many informal, heartfelt conversations about our work. Our love for our community and stories of pain and resilience are survivors that never leave these walls. We also know that folks across the community are supporting each other with navigating experiences with abuse, violence, oppression, and trauma, and are creating healing spaces that work for their community. We hope this podcast will become a container for the love, healing, and brilliance, and serve as a tool to help bridge all of the critical work and leadership across our community. When we are in loving, healthy relationship, we can work together to heal and transform our communities. In our upcoming conversation, we will discuss the 2025 Footsteps for Healing Walk.
Hello, everyone. This is Larry Starks. I'm the board president for the Tucson Juneteenth Festival. I want to thank you for joining us for episode 4 of the Liberation Through Love and our podcast for Footsteps Through Healing. I also want to thank my guests that are here. We can just go around the room. You can introduce yourself, your organization, and kind of why you're here at the table with this Footsteps for Healing. So first, I'd like to introduce Anna Harper, our CEO of Emerge.
Hi, everyone. I'm happy to be here, and our guest moderator. It's very thrilling to have Larry leading us through this discussion as one of our favorite community partners. I'm the CEO here at Emerge, and for me, the walk is something that we have been working toward for many years. We have a belief that all forms of violence in our community are connected, and that domestic violence is not separate from other community violence, sexual violence, gun violence, and that if we're truly going to work toward prevention, we have to be partners in our work. And so having the planning group have all of the members that it does is really important in terms of bringing in the community and helping our community to see those connections as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Anna. I appreciate that. Next, I'd like to introduce Caitlin Mohe, the Executive Director for SACASA. You can tell us what that SACASA means.
Absolutely. SACASA is the Southern Arizona Center Against Sexual Assault. We're a local nonprofit providing support to survivors, their loved ones, and community members who are impacted by sexual trauma. And we obviously see a lot of intersection between sexual abuse and other forms of assault. This partnership, these partnerships, there's so many people at this table, mean a lot to us. We, as Anna said, recognize that we cannot do this work in a silo. There's so many ways that victims are impacted, and they need a lot of wraparound support from compassionate and trauma-informed people. But this event, in addition to that, it really is about community for us. We can't do this work without our partners, but we certainly can't make long-lasting change without our community. And this gives us a chance to bring our everyday community members into such an important conversation and really be a part of that change.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Our next community partner, we have Lance Meeks, who is the Vice President of Community Engagement at Goodwill of Southern Arizona.
Hello, everyone. Once again, I'm Lance Meeks, Vice President of Community Engagement of Goodwill of Southern Arizona. And a lot of times people are familiar with us through our retail stores and donation centers, but we are really grateful to be a part of the work with these community partners here, and it really matters to us. We have 14 workforce development programs and reentry programs and services, community violence intervention programming, and over the years that I've been employed at Goodwill through the different various programs, we've lost a lot of participants to various forms of different types of violence. So it really matters to us. We're an organization with close to 600 employees, and a lot of our employees are survivors of violence in the community as well as their families. So one of our values is that we we benefit the communities that we operate in. And so for us to partner alongside Emerge, Shikasa, the Tucson Juneteenth Festival, and other community partners and stakeholders it means a lot to us.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Now we'd like to welcome to our newest partners here with the walk, and that is Beatriz Sanchez, is the Children's Advocacy for Civil and Family Matters, and Mauricio Mendoza, who is a counsel for the Center of Information and Assistance to Mexicans. So those are nice long titles. Who wants to explain theirs first?
Yeah, it's like I'm Mexican. I have 2 names and 2 last names. So Mauricio Mendoza Arellano. So it's
Follows tradition.
It's part of the tradition.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So, my name is Beatriz. I oversee Children's Advocacy, Civil and Family Matters at the Consulate of Mexico here in Tucson, Arizona. And I'm excited to be here. For us, it's really important the collaborations we do with organizations that are locally, but also we understand that violence needs to be addressed not only locally, but nationally and even internationally, right? We have the Mexican migrant community here in Tucson. It's pretty large as we live in borderlands, and we understand that there are different types of violences that are intersectional. So having these partnerships with not only the ones that are right now here at the podcast, but with several organizations, it's really important to address and to support with resilience for the people who are going through that.
Excellent. Thank you.
I work in the Center for Information and Assistance to Mexican Nationals. It's a 24/7 hotline that serves all the consulates here in the United States and in Canada. Also, we receive callings from Mexico for people who are trying to locate their family members that are lost in the crossings, or even they are detained for any authority. Also, we understand that violence is in different ways. We're trying to transform the image of the government, trying to be closer to the family of the victims. We're trying to build resilience, and we're trying to give all the different tools with all the different collaboration we have in the consulate.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And just kind of tag on to that with Juneteenth, and people wonder, well, how does Juneteenth relate to domestic violence and abuse? But if you think about the day itself and what it commemorates, it's about trauma. It's about abuse of 250,000 Americans who were held captive on an island, before they were free. So it was kind of what you would contribute now to modern day trafficking of human beings. So that's why it's important to us, because we are a community agency and we're here to protect all assets and facets of the community. So I also want to remind the community our walk for domestic violence will be October 18th at Reed Park. From 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., we'll have vendors, we'll have poetry, we'll have dancing and music and food trucks. But most important, the community will come out. I think last year we had over 100 people walking. This year we're trying to increase that to over 300. And it's really about, letting the victims of domestic violence know that we stand with them and for them. So, we want everybody to come out and support that. Anna, a question to you. This is the 50th year for Emerge, and you are the new CEO.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations. So how does that feel, and what does that mean to you, being that 50th year here for Emerge?
Thank you. It doesn't feel like I'm new. But I think, when I think about the history of how we came to be here, it really was a small group of community members who decided that they were going to do something to provide support and protection to people who were being harmed. They had no money, they had no resources, very little support. They had their will and they had their love for community. Uh-huh. And for me, those are the things that are getting us through this year. This is the 50th year, but it's a really challenging year because of shifts in funding, federal priorities that are making it difficult to maintain our approach to the work. Mm-hmm. And the thing that's making it easier is the partnerships that we have. So for me, it's it's new but not new, and I think it's quite similar to probably what drove that group of community members to start the work some 50 years ago. That's the same kind of energy that we will need to sustain our work going forward. And now more than ever, we need the community support. We need to provide awareness and education to the community about all of the different forms of violence happening in our community and the support available in our community, that there are people who care and help is available. Those messages aren't different. And there's definitely celebration attached to it. It's no small feat to last 50 years in this work. It's hard work. It's thankless work. And it's not lost on me that there are many people in this community who have suffered greatly over the last 50 years. There are families today who are mourning the loss of someone as a result of violence. And so the stakes could not be higher. And I'm proud to have the partnerships that we have. And I know everyone is spread thin. I know everyone is facing similar challenges in their organizations, and yet we continue to show up. And I believe that kind of heart and love is what is going to carry us through.
So for everyone also in the room, the theme is community healing. So if we can just each one of you talk about what that means for you and your organization as far as healing the community and what the steps may also attribute to that theme for you and for your agency.
I can start a little bit. I really appreciate even just Inanna's response about the 50th, kind of that reflection on the power that a few community members and a grassroots movement can really have on change. 50 years later, things look a lot different for the organization, and certainly for ours at SACASA as well. There's been lots of, just movement in a really meaningful direction, despite so many barriers and so many challenges that we still face. I think we are in a better place to have these conversations than we were, 20, 30, 50 years ago. So for me, community is really at the center of this. There's so much power our community holds to make change. And I think embracing that and engaging them in the conversations and trusting them with the knowledge and the tools to stand with survivors and to call for an end to violence is such a vital part of what we do. I think all of us are in this to be out of the job, if that makes sense. Like my end game is to not be needed. I'd love to see that happen in my lifetime, but there's zero chance of that change happening without engaging our everyday community members to acknowledge the violence that happens, to recognize it, and to take accountability in whatever ways they can to call for that change.
Lance?
I knew you were going to go there. I think for me, community healing, I've been at Goodwill for over 11 years in our workforce development program. There's some things that we do good, helping folks with job readiness skills, training, and getting employed. But really, I think since our partnership with Emerge and other community partners, when we're looking at ensuring that folks are safe in our community, we really started to really think about it in our organization. Yes, we can help you get a job, right? But it's more than just a job. Mm-hmm. And dealing with whether they're employees, program participants on a daily basis, to be more intentional about how do we help the whole person. Mm-hmm. And so with that, with the partnership with Emerge, we really have done some really great work of creating and expanding programs that focus on the root causes of violence, that also focus on developing leadership, that also focuses on the healing. And so more than ever, when I think about the work that we're doing now and the future of our community, for me, it has to incorporate healing as a part of what we do at So that has been our journey, and it's also not even on a local level, but as we share with our other partners on a national level, other goodwills that are in our networks, we get to really, I don't want to say brag, but really be proud
Brag.
about the work that we're doing, because in certain situations and grant funding, they're telling us, oh, well, you need to partner with this group or this agency and that.
Mhm.
And the truth of the matter is, the work that we've done together, we've already been partnering, right? So we're authentic about our work here in this community, and it feels good.
I think that's such an important acknowledgement about the ways that our dimensions of wellness are connected and how important it is to treat that whole person. And really, like you said, just emphasizes why these relationships and partnerships are so important and how grateful we are to be a part of that.
Yes. Well, for us, the community is everything, really. We as an institution, we address community with thinking that we are human beings serving human beings. So even though we're an institution, at the end of the day, we understand that being human is the first thing of everything, right? It's the first principle. So healing through community is rebuilding lives, to understand that as community, we hold a power of assisting each other, that we can be together, not only as institution, but also with that community, and that also it's connected with the organizations we work with. The same organizations are the community, right? And well, for us, it's really important that we can work together towards that.
Also, in the consulate, we understand that the healing is an ongoing process. It's not ending at a certain point. It's ongoing, and we are trying to keep that healing process going for people who has been victim of violence, because sometimes violence is only not from one source, but a lot of sources. Also, we are not an enforcement agency, or we are not have the capacity to give legal advice, but we have a lot of partners who can. So we can connect all that points to give the adequate tools to the people to start or to keep going in their healing process.
Excellent. I mean, and that's an excellent point, because again, when you talk about healing for a lot of people, you have to talk about acceptance. One, you can't start the healing process until you accept there's an issue. And so I think that's what this walk does, and the partnership does, is the community hopefully acknowledging that there is a problem, there is something going on. And then the fact that Emerge, I'm going to say, has only been here for 50 years is a concern.
Right.
It should be 100 years old instead of 50 years old. But the fact, like you said, it's a grassroots moment that moved us forward, kind of like even with Juneteenth, it's been 55 years, but it started with a few people who wanted to, make sure it was commemorated. And now it's grown into something greater, which is a lot of programs. That's kind of how they begin. So let me ask you, each one of you, as far as with the walk on the 18th, what are some of the barriers that you believe the walk can get over, get through, get around, as personal or within your organization? What are some of those barriers you see that this walk can help with?
I think one of the barriers that comes up for me, and I was thinking about it, is, we've been having discussion. This walk, I think the first year we put a lot of focus on like the survivors, right? And what also came up for me is like the families who were part of this walk that were able to honor their loved ones, right? And to never forget their names. But I think one of the barriers could be is that folks who have created harm, right? They may feel like they might not be welcome at this event. And that came up for me because we have a young man who's employed with us, but he went through the programs with us at Goodwill many years ago. And Larry, we actually called you the other day. Yeah. But and he's currently going through some of our healing pathways groups, but you know, he's made a lot of different changes to his life, and he wasn't employed with us last year, but I know he'll be at this event. Um, but I just wanted to make sure that the folks who have committed harm, right, that those, and you know, it could be a lot of different forms, but I would say you are welcome to be at this event. And yes, there may be shame that comes with that, right? But you said it right. There's acceptance. You know, there's people, our community, folks, you know, want to support you. We want to love on you, right? And so I would say, you know, there's a good amount of folks that I see on a daily basis, and they're still dealing with um, the consequences of what they've done. But this is a space um, that I would say we all agree that they're welcome to be a part of. You know.
I agree. Thank you.
I think, the other pieces, and Caitlin can, I'm sure, add in on this. I think so often people who have experienced abuse feel like it's only them, or there's somehow something wrong with them, and that's the reason that these things have happened to them. There's something really powerful about coming into a room, a space, an event, and seeing hundreds of people show up. That the thing that can shift shame, the thing that can shift confusion is to see that there's an entire community that gets it. That can be healing. Just that act alone, to see people show up and care, I think can be really helpful. And then, Lance kind of named it, but one of the things I hear so often from mothers who have lost their daughters is one of their greatest fears is that their daughter's life or story will be forgotten. And the community will not remember what happened to them, or that they had a whole life outside of what happened to them. And so it's really important, that we create spaces where we take responsibility for making sure that those lives are remembered, and that it's not solely on the families to host memorials, events, and put out Facebook posts, but that is healing when a community joins in to take responsibility for those things as well. So, Caitlin, I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, you took a lot of the thoughts right out of my head. I think when the question was asked, I was thinking a lot about, stigma and shame is something that this event really does help us kind of overcome, because these are our topics, and these are, lived experiences that have historically really thrived in silence. And this is an event that puts it out in the public. I mean, we're going into a public park that people frequent with their kids and, for birthday parties. And we're saying that this conversation and this healing space belongs everywhere. And I agree. I think it's so incredibly powerful to, maybe make this shift from I'm alone in this, or I somehow deserved this, to I'm not alone, and look at these complete strangers who have come together to support this and to support me and my healing. It's just such a powerful thing to witness and experience and be a part of. And yeah, I think that's one of the main things I really love about this event, is that ability to push shame and stigma to the side and say that this is, as you said, a community responsibility. This isn't a problem that belongs in the home or, within your family. This is a problem that we all have to acknowledge and take ownership of, and commit to standing with survivors, calling for a change. And then going off what Lance said, welcoming people who have caused harm into those spaces, who are interested and willing to commit to change and to preventing further abuse. And I think that's just a unique approach that we need to embrace more. So I'm really excited that this event makes space for all of that.
You actually said a lot of things that I even wrote down, saying the very first thoughts that I have. For sure, there's a lot of the stigma about healing and about healing alone, right? Because there's sometimes there are talks that we have to have in order to go through that healing process too. In migrant communities, as sometimes the families or support is in other places too. For example, for us, like maybe in Mexico, or even in other countries because it is important to also say like, hey, there's a community here that will support you to go towards healing, to that understand what you went through, and to break that stigma of maybe I'm alone here, right? Or having that lonely path through that. And it's not only services that can do that, but it's a community that we were saying. And even in something symbolic as having a walk together, is understanding that we are walking and we're not doing it.
Yeah, and I think that the community work is amazing because when you heal, you help somebody heal. It's in both ways. It's not isolated that I am trying to heal. When you're trying to heal, you begin to heal people around you. So in the community is real strong that statement, because particularly for the Mexican American Mexican community, sometimes they feel that they don't belong, not in Mexico, not in America. So it's really hard, hard feeling for them. But with this initiative, with all this work, I think they're gonna start to comprehend that they really belong. They are part of a community that is bigger than their neighborhood. That is a community of the human beings.
I think what you're saying, community or healing is really a part of prevention too, because we can break cycles of violence through healing as well. I love that.
You know, something else, sorry Larry, I'm gonna take over. That I really think is worth naming, and we're getting at it, I think, in a roundabout way, but with this point that Matt's brought up and Caitlin's reinforcing about people who have hurt people in their lives, right? There might be folks listening thinking, whoa, wait a minute, right? If this is supposed to be about safety, why would you bring people here who have hurt people? And I want to just take a minute and talk about that, because, you know, one, I think it's important to know we're talking about folks who are in a process of change, right? Like, you have to be willing to do the work to become safer. And the other thing is that we all know somebody, not just who has experienced abuse, but who has probably hurt somebody that they love. And one of the ways that I think we generate healing and dialogue is to name it, to normalize conversations. I think so often we've been trained to think about people who hurt people as bad monsters who should go somewhere else, never to return. Well, that's a lot harder argument to make when we're talking about our fathers, our brothers, people that we love. And so many of us grew up in neighborhoods and households where violence was a regular occurrence. That was a normalized experience, that we know violence exists around us. But what's not been normalized is our ability to talk about it and to name it. And not just say to survivors, help is available, please ask for it, but to say to people who are hurting people they love, help is available, please ask for it. And we will receive you and support you through that process, just like we want safety and healing for survivors. And that might be a complicated piece, and I know that depending on where people are at in their healing journey, that's a bit harder to talk about for people who just aren't ready for that and who are still dealing with the consequences of violence and hurt, and that's important to name too. But I think unless and until we as a community can begin having more complex conversations and normalize not just that violence exists, but how do we talk about it? How do we invite people in? That's the only pathway to true change. We know we're not going to arrest or prosecute our way out of this issue. That is not the solution. It has never been the solution. And so it takes courageous community conversations for that to happen. So I just wanted to offer that as further.
No, that's good. And I was having a conversation earlier with Consulate is we have more things in common than not. I mean, if we sat here and told our own life stories, you know, we've all been affected by trauma and violence, you know, in our communities, whether, you know, it's not just a Black community, Hispanic community, it's a white community, whatever it might be, you know, it's there. But like you said, until we until we start saying we really need to have this conversation for those who hurt more so, is going to keep occurring because if we don't, worry about these other things, and that just keeps going on and on and on and on. So that's with the space that we help create, even with Emerge and Goodwill, with the Black Men's Healing Space and the call to action. That's where we're having those conversations is, those people who have hurt because they were hurt or whatever the reason might be, having those uncomfortable conversations, in a space that's not prison. It's not mandatory.
Right.
It's you're sitting here because you want to sit here and have this conversation because you want to change. So those are different, but I appreciate you bringing that up. Anybody else want to touch on that before we?
I have nothing to add. It was beautifully said. I just really appreciate it being brought up, and I really appreciate what's really coming across as innovative work that you all are doing in that kind of space. So I'm just really grateful that we have that in this community, and I hope that it can be a model for other communities as well.
Yeah. So as we talk about
bringing that up too, Larry, because, you brought up Black Men's Healing Space, call to action.
Yeah.
I totally left that out.
That's why I'm here.
He's got you covered.
Larry's doing a good job. He's hired to run your podcast.
Sometimes
my price kind of high.
Sometimes I follow behind you. I get into trouble.
Oh, man, you could never get in trouble following behind me. Get in trouble trying to lead me. But follow me is the problem. It'd be great. So as we kind of wrap up a little bit, let's talking about the walking in, but I do want to tell the listeners, make sure you go to the Emerge website where you can sign up for the walk. We have volunteer opportunities also for the walk. If you want to be a volunteer, you want to, I don't know, we may have some tabling possibilities available also. But just please go to the website, sign up. It's going to be a great community event. But as we move forward in this walk, what do you hope people come and take away from this, from the walk itself? It was such a great journey where we came from before when it first started to where we are now. And it hasn't been that long. Was it 3 years now? We did 2 years. Oh my God. So it's like, that's amazing. I'm giving us more credit. It's been so much work. I thought it was
been a long year.
Well, we've done a lot of work.
We've done a lot of work. Yeah, there's been a lot of work going on these few years. But in saying that, though, what do you hope people take away from this as, as we walk, as we talk, as we bring the community together? What are you personally and for your agency hoping people to take away from this?
I think that at least from a point of view of the consulate, we would hope that they know that they are not alone. Sometimes it's hard to approach to organizations or institutions, and we are going to be in a park, which is an open space too, and to be there and know that they are not alone is important. To know that there are tangible things that we can do also to towards the healing, right? Even if it's, and I know that this might sound silly, but even if it's a passport, sometimes it can help through a process and have services in other points that we can assist them in, referring them, that we can assist them through that process and that, the process of navigating their healing and to be in a better space and to hold that space too in the community. So I think that would be.
We can go off of that and share empowerment, because getting access to those resources and taking some power and control over that healing and getting, whether it's asking for help or stepping in and feeling empowered to offer your support to someone else, I think is really incredible. Stepping away with some knowledge or really just, that willingness to say, I share it with their friends and family. I attended an event today to support survivors of violence, and being able to spread that word and show, more publicly and consistently that there are lots of people out there to provide support, and that, going after years, they're not alone, right? There are so many people available and ready and willing to step in and help. And I think just kind of empowering yourself to be one of those people can be, just make all the change. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take your...
Just remember that to the community, they do belong.
Yeah.
That is an important part of this process of healing and understand that they are part of a bigger community.
Beautiful. Thank you.
I think you said it earlier that we all probably have experienced. Well, what you said, we have more things similar than not, right? And I remember last year, one of the ladies I've known in this community for quite some time. I think this space gave her the ability to continue to work on her healing journey with losing her son to gun violence, which I would say probably like 8 years ago. She was working at another organization, and we've been working together to support individuals in the community. And I never knew until started doing this work with community violence intervention program that we have, that she had actually lost her son to gun violence. And so this space that we all created last year was such an amazing opportunity to be with her, to be present, and as well as seeing other community members lift up the names of their loved ones, the sharing of resources and services. It brought, I think, it definitely can bring a lot to our community. And sometimes we just don't know, right? We don't know what's going on. We don't know what people have dealt with. But to be in community and listen and learn from each other. And he had one job to do, and he didn't do it.
So the listeners know Larry's phone is going on.
Larry had one.
He warned us all, but
Nobody
forgot to
heard
check his
There
own.
was instructions that were
Nobody
given.
heard it, though. Nobody heard it. Anna, did you have last comment? Take away?
I think just that it's an open invitation to join us in the work in whatever way resonates for people. The work we're doing is hard work. It's imperfect, but we come with a lot of humility. And so, if there are folks in the community who want to be a part of it, have ideas, please join us. It's an open invitation. I also want to make sure that I note that we have 2 other partners that weren't able to join us today for the podcast. The City of Tucson's Community Safety, Health, and Wellness Program has been a partner since last year. And for our listeners that aren't aware, they are out in the community helping to organize neighborhoods and smaller sort of like apartment complex communities, places like that, to be an active part of designing and responding to violence in communities. And then the other partner is Indivisible Dono. And Emerge has had a partnership with them for some 6 or 7 years, where we're working at the intersection between missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls in particular, but certainly inclusive of all people, and domestic violence and sexual violence. We know that much of that violence here locally is correlated to domestic violence and sexual violence. And it's important to us that we honor that intersection and name that dynamic as we move forward as a community.
Thank you. Another thing, when people come, they'll find people who share their same story, who share their same history, whether it's a person who's a perpetrator or a person who's a victim. You know what I mean? So I think if they just come out and see what, as a community, we're better together than apart, especially on these days and times where things are going a little bit different. The community has to come together to be able to help each other. So I just want to remind everyone to go to emergecenter.org/footsteps for healing to sign up for the registration. I do want to thank our guests. We're Emerge guests. Thank you for having me as a co-host. Anna did step in a little too many times.
Are we surprised? She's so good at it.
Anna Harper, CEO at Emerge. Lance Meeks, Vice President of Community Engagement at Goodwill. Caitlin Monge, Executive Director of SACASA, Beatriz Sanchez, Children's Advocacy, Civil and Family Matters, and Mauricio Mendoza, Consul for the Center of Information and Assistance to Mexicans. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you guys.
Thank you for leading us today.
Thank you.
I want to thank you, our guests, for all of your labor and work to build safety in our community and for giving life to the idea that when we can shift our understanding about domestic abuse and the root causes of violence so that we can create new patterns of behavior. This allows survivors to heal and find safety in loving community. At Emerge, we meet at the intersections of our journeys to metabolize trauma, create change amongst ourselves and our families, and grow in a world that centers and honors the humanity of survivors. Join us as we move forward and continue along the trajectory of shaping innovation, reparative, and holistic community solutions. Thank you for listening. Please like this podcast and share it.